That badge belongs to a real pilot. Celeste, Warren held the plastic identification card beneath the fluorescent light, studying the photograph as though the woman standing in front of her could not possibly be the person printed on it. Colonel Amara Reed did not argue. She simply looked through the glass wall toward the runway, where a white medical jet waited beneath gathering storm clouds. Inside the jet, a refrigerated transport case had already been secured to the floor. Inside that case was the donor heart of a 17-year-old boy. 2 states away, an 11-year-old child named Isaiah Bell was being prepared for surgery. Celeste picked up a pair of office scissors. "You stole the wrong credential," she said. Then she cut Amara's flight badge in half. The snapping plastic was almost silent, but every dispatcher in the operations room heard it. Amara looked at the broken pieces, then at the digital clock above the weather screens. The runway would close in 11 minutes. After that, the storm line would cover the airport, and the donor heart might never reach Isaiah in time. "You can embarrass me after the aircraft leaves," Amara said quietly. "Right now, you need to move away from that door." Celeste folded her arms. "You are not going anywhere near a $12 million jet." Amara's expression did not change. "Then call the person who sent me." "I already called security. That was not the person I meant." Celeste smiled. 3 minutes later, 2 security officers entered the room. 6 minutes later, the chief executive of North Star Lifeline Aviation came running through the hangar, still wearing a hospital visitor badge. He saw Amara surrounded by security. He saw her identification card lying in 2 pieces. Then he looked at Celeste and went completely still. "What have you done?" he whispered. Celeste pointed toward Amara. "I stopped an imposter from stealing one of our aircraft." The executive stared at her. "That woman founded this company. No one moved. She owns the aircraft," he continued. "She designed its emergency flight system, and she is the only captain within 300 miles certified to fly tonight's route." Then his voice broke. "The heart in that jet has less than 4 hours left." Amara picked up the broken pieces of her badge. 3 hours and 37 minutes, she corrected. She looked toward the runway again. "And because of her, we have 5 minutes to take off." 28 minutes earlier, Amara Reed had been driving an old blue pickup truck through the industrial side of Graydon, Georgia. Rain had begun tapping against the windshield, light enough to ignore but heavy enough to warn anyone who understood weather. Amara understood weather. She had flown through desert dust, coastal hurricanes, and mountain snowstorms that turned daylight into a wall of white. The sky always announced what it intended to do. People simply failed to listen. At 57, Amara had learned the same thing about human beings. They announced themselves too. Sometimes it was in the way they shook her hand while looking past her for someone more important. Sometimes it was in the surprise on their faces when she entered a cockpit. Sometimes it was in the pause after she introduced herself, when they quietly rearranged the person they thought they were meeting. Amara wore a faded navy flight jacket over a plain black shirt. Her dark gray trousers had been ironed that morning, although the right knee carried a permanent pale mark from an aircraft repair she had performed years earlier. Her silver-streaked hair was braided close to her scalp and gathered into a low bun. On her feet were black flight boots that had crossed more runways than most pilots ever saw. Nothing about her looked expensive. That was because almost nothing she wore was. The pickup had belonged to her husband, Marcus. He had driven it until cancer made driving impossible, and Amara had kept it running for 7 years after his death. The air conditioner worked only on its highest setting. The passenger side window needed help closing. A small crack stretched across the bottom of the windshield, but it had never reached her line of sight. Several people had offered to replace the truck. Amara always gave them the same answer: "It still knows the way home." On the seat beside her sat a leather flight case, a tablet, and a printed emergency mission release. 26 minutes earlier, Nolan Price, the chief executive of North Star Lifeline Aviation, had called her personally. Their assigned captain had collapsed from severe food poisoning while preparing for departure. The reserve pilot was trapped at another airport because of thunderstorms. A donor heart had just been recovered outside Savannah and needed to reach Children's Hope Medical Center in northern Alabama. The recipient was 11-year-old Isaiah Bell. He had lived with a failing heart since infancy. 3 previous transplant opportunities had disappeared before they reached him. One donor had not been a match. Another organ had been damaged. The third flight had been canceled because the donor's condition changed at the final moment. This was his 4th chance. It might also be his last. North Star's aircraft could make the trip in 78 minutes, but a line of severe storms was moving toward Graydon Municipal Airport. Once the airport closed, no aircraft would leave for at least 2 hours. The donor heart did not have 2 hours to spare. Amara had been sitting at her kitchen table when Nolan called. She had already changed out of her flight clothes after completing a morning training session in North Star's simulator. Although she no longer flew full-time, she kept every qualification current. That was not nostalgia. It was a promise. North Star had been born from a night when a qualified aircraft had not been available. 31 years earlier, Amara's younger sister Rochelle had suffered internal bleeding after a highway collision in rural Mississippi. The local hospital could stabilize her but could not perform the surgery she needed. A medical aircraft had been requested. None arrived. Weather delayed one company. Another refused the mission because Rochelle's family could not immediately confirm insurance coverage. By the time transportation was approved, Rochelle was gone. She was 22 years old. Amara had been an Air Force rescue pilot then, trained to cross hostile territory for strangers whose names she did not know. Yet she had been unable to move her own sister 90 miles. The helplessness stayed with her. Years later, after leaving active service, she founded North Star Lifeline Aviation with one leased plane, 3 employees, and a rule written on the first page of the company's operating manual. When a life can still be saved, the mission comes before the invoice. North Star grew. The company transported premature infants, burn victims, transplant teams, and organs between hospitals across 11 states. Amara developed a flight coordination system that reduced emergency departure times. She sold the technology to other medical carriers and reinvested the money into North Star. Eventually, the company operated 28 aircraft. Amara stepped away from daily management after Marcus became ill, but she never sold control. The Reed family trust remained North Star's majority owner. Her signature approved every major acquisition. Her vote appointed the board. Her name appeared on legal documents, insurance contracts, and regulatory filings. It did not appear on billboards. Amara had never cared about being recognized. She cared about whether the aircraft left on time. When Nolan called, he did not need to explain the stakes twice. Amara took the mission details, changed into her flight clothes, and drove directly to the airport. She expected to walk through operations, meet her co-pilot, and leave. She had no idea Celeste Warren was waiting inside. Celeste had become acting operations director at the Graydon facility 4 months earlier. She was 46, white, polished, and highly aware of every symbol attached to authority. Her blonde hair was cut to the exact length permitted by the company appearance guide. Her charcoal suit looked untouched by the rain outside. A silver aviation pin rested on her lapel, even though she had never flown an aircraft. Celeste had worked in luxury charter aviation before joining North Star. She had spent years arranging flights for executives, celebrities, and families who treated privacy as a form of currency. She understood expensive luggage, tailored jackets, and people who expected doors to open before they reached them. She was less comfortable with North Star's world. Medical aviation was unpredictable. Families arrived frightened and badly dressed. Paramedics tracked rainwater onto clean floors. Pilots sometimes ate dinner from vending machines. The job required judgment, but Celeste preferred categories. Categories made her feel in control. Doctor, mechanic, patient, driver, important, unimportant. People were easier when they stayed where she placed them. Several employees had complained about the way Celeste treated contract workers and newly hired crew members. Nothing had reached the board. Celeste knew how to make cruelty sound like efficiency. She called it maintaining standards. At 5:13 that evening, she stood in the operations room watching the weather radar. A red band of thunderstorms was moving across the screen. Dispatchers spoke into headsets while ground crews prepared the jet. The donor heart had arrived under state police escort 7 minutes earlier. It sat inside a white transport container marked with red medical seals. A transplant coordinator remained beside it, checking the temperature every 60 seconds. Everyone in the room understood the mission was urgent. Then Amara entered through the staff corridor. Celeste noticed the worn jacket first, then the old flight case, then the rain on Amara's shoulders. "You cannot come through this entrance," she said. Amara stopped. "I am Captain Reed. Nolan Price called me for Mission 74. Celeste looked behind Amara as if another person might be entering. No, he did not. Amara reached into her jacket slowly and removed her North Star identification badge. The card listed her name, employee classification, and security level. Below the photograph, it identified her as Command Pilot, Special Operations. Celeste took it without asking. Her eyes moved from the card to Amara's face. "This is not possible. The photograph was taken 9 months ago." "I can see the photograph." "Then I am not sure which part is confusing you." Several dispatchers turned in their chairs. Amara's voice was calm, but calmness can sound like defiance to a person expecting submission. Celeste's mouth tightened. "We have no black female command pilot assigned to this facility." "I am not assigned to this facility." "Then you are not cleared to enter." "I am assigned to the mission." Celeste examined the card again. Amara could see the decision forming before the woman spoke. It had nothing to do with the badge. The badge had already answered every reasonable question. Celeste simply did not believe the answer. A young dispatcher named Maya Torres removed one side of her headset. Maya was 24 and had worked for North Star for less than 6 months. She had received the mission update from corporate. The name Amara Reed had appeared in capital letters on her screen. "Ms. Warren," Maya said carefully, "Captain Reed is listed on the amended release." Celeste did not turn. "I did not ask you." Maya looked at Amara. Amara gave her the smallest nod, acknowledging the effort. Outside, the glass ground workers rolled the organ container toward the aircraft. The co-pilot, Jonah Wells, stood at the bottom of the jet's stairs checking his watch. He could not see what was happening inside operations. Amara looked at the clock. "We need to brief and depart. No one is departing until I verify this." "Then verify it." Celeste carried the badge to a computer terminal. She entered Amara's identification number. The system displayed a restricted profile. Because Amara was a board-level officer and special operations captain, access to her full record required executive authorization. A yellow message appeared on the screen. "Identity active. Flight status current. Executive security file. Contact corporate operations for confirmation." Celeste read it twice. "Why is your file restricted?" "Because of the work I used to do." "What work?" "Military rescue operations." Celeste gave a small laugh. The sound drew more attention than shouting would have. "You expect me to believe you were an Air Force rescue pilot?" Amara glanced at the wings stitched above the left pocket of her jacket. "They do not give these away at airports." A few employees lowered their eyes. They recognized the insignia. Celeste either did not or chose not to. "Anyone can buy a jacket." Amara's jaw tightened. Only slightly. She had heard versions of that sentence for most of her adult life. At 24, a flight instructor had accused her of memorizing answers because he could not believe she had earned the highest score in his class. At 30, a maintenance supervisor had asked whether she was delivering lunch while she stood beneath the aircraft she had been assigned to command. At 41, a hospital administrator had requested the real company owner during negotiations and continued searching the hallway after Amara introduced herself. She had survived each moment. Survival did not make repetition painless. It simply taught her where to put the pain. "Call Nalan," Amara said. "He is unavailable. He answered my call 28 minutes ago. He is at Children's Hope. He is traveling back from Children's Hope." Celeste looked up sharply. That detail made her hesitate. Amara continued before pride could recover. "Call corporate operations. Ask for Rachel Kim. Tell her to authenticate security code Sierra 9 Reed." Celeste leaned away from the terminal. "You do not give instructions in my operations room. Your operations room is holding a donor organ while a storm closes the runway. Do not use that child to pressure me." Amara stared at her. For the first time, something colder entered her expression. "I am not using him. I am trying to reach him." The transplant coordinator looked at the clock. "Ms. Warren, the organ has been out of the donor for 43 minutes. Celeste raised a hand without looking at him. "I am handling the security issue." "There is no security issue," Amara said. "There is a verification procedure you are refusing to perform." Celeste stepped closer. "What I see is an unidentified woman entering a restricted facility with a credential she cannot explain." "I explained it. You gave me a story. I gave you my name, identification number, mission number, executive contact, and authentication code. You also walked in here dressed like ground staff." Silence moved across the room. It did not arrive suddenly. It spread from one employee to another as the meaning of the sentence settled. Amara looked down at her jacket. There was a small oil stain near the cuff. She had received it 2 years earlier while helping a crew replace a damaged hydraulic line. "What does a pilot look like?" she asked. Celeste's face changed, not with shame, with irritation at being required to answer. "You know exactly what I mean." "No," Amara said. "I know exactly what you are avoiding." The weather alert sounded. A computerized voice announced lightning within 12 miles of the airport. The runway closure estimate changed from 17 minutes to 11. Maya turned her monitor so the others could see it. "We have to move now." Celeste walked toward her. "Put your headset back on." "But corporate sent," I said. "Put it back on." Maya obeyed, but her hands shook. Amara watched her return to the radio. Fear was not always dramatic. Sometimes it was a young woman calculating rent, student loans, and the cost of disappointing a manager. Amara did not blame her. She had been that young once. She had also learned that silence could become a habit faster than courage. Celeste returned to Amara and extended her hand. "Give me the flight release." Amara removed the printed document from her case. Celeste read the first page. The release listed Amara as pilot in command. It carried Nalan Price's digital authorization and a corporate verification number. Celeste's expression should have softened. Instead, it hardened. The document threatened the decision she had already made. People rarely protect facts as fiercely as they protect themselves from embarrassment. This signature could have been copied. "The authorization can be confirmed from the terminal." "You seem to know a great deal about our system." "I built the first version of it." Kyle Benton, the senior ground coordinator, laughed near the equipment lockers. Kyle was 32 and had spent 3 years trying to become the kind of employee Celeste noticed. He repeated her opinions before she finished speaking and treated every new worker as a possible rival. "You built North Star's dispatch system." He said, "Yes." "With what?" "A library computer." A few people smiled, not because the joke was funny, because laughter can be an application for membership. Amara looked at Kyle. He stopped smiling before she looked away. Celeste placed the flight release on the desk. I am confiscating this credential and document. You do not have the authority to confiscate either one. I am acting director of this facility, and I am telling you to call corporate. Celeste's cheeks colored. You are done telling me anything. She opened a drawer and removed a pair of heavy scissors used for cutting security laminates. Maya stood so quickly that her chair rolled backward. Ms. Warren, please don't. Celeste positioned Amara's badge between the blades. The room seemed to narrow around the movement. You will not be using stolen access at this company again. Amara did not reach for the card. She knew how quickly a black woman's attempt to protect her own property could be described as aggression. She kept her hands at her sides. Before you do that, she said, look at the clock. Celeste closed the blades. The badge cracked down the center. One half struck the desk. The other fell to the floor. For several seconds, the only sound was the weather system humming through the speakers. Amara looked at the broken identification. Then she looked through the window at the medical jet. Jonah Wells was climbing the stairs to check whether a mechanical problem had caused the delay. The transport team waited beside the organ case. The runway lights had come on beneath a sky turning almost black. You have made this mission 9 minutes late, Amara said. Celeste dropped the scissors. You are not part of this mission. Amara removed her phone. Celeste reached forward. Put that away. I am calling Nalin. You are calling no one from a restricted room. Celeste pressed an emergency button beneath the desk. A security alarm sounded once. The electronic locks engaged. 2 red lights appeared above the exits. Every employee in the room froze. Amara looked at the locked door between her and the aircraft. Open it. Security will open it when they arrive. Open the door, Celeste. It was the first time Amara used her name. The familiarity seemed to offend her more than any accusation. You will address me as Ms. Warren. You will open that door. Are you threatening me? I am trying to prevent a child from dying because you were afraid to make one phone call. Celeste stepped backward as though Amara had raised a hand. Everyone heard that. Yes, Amara said. I hope they remember it. Kyle moved between Amara and the exit. You need to calm down. Amara looked at him. I am calm. You are making people uncomfortable. A donor heart is losing usable time while you defend a broken badge. Discomfort would be a reasonable response. The security officers arrived less than a minute later. Aaron Pike entered first. He was a broad-shouldered man in his early 40s with a shaved head and a company security uniform. His partner, Danielle Brooks, followed him. Danielle was a black woman, 29, former Army military police. Her eyes moved quickly through the room. She saw Amara standing several feet from everyone else. She saw Celeste behind the desk. She saw the broken badge on the floor. What happened? Aaron asked. Celeste answered before anyone else could speak. This woman entered with stolen credentials, became confrontational, and attempted to access an aircraft. I did not attempt to access it, Amara said. I was prevented from accessing it. Celeste pointed at her. There, that attitude. Danielle studied Amara's jacket. Her gaze stopped on the rescue pilot insignia. Ma'am, were you Air Force? 21 years. What unit? 37th Rescue Squadron, then the Air Mobility Command Emergency Evaluation Group. Danielle's posture changed. Her older brother had served with the 37th. The unit's reputation was known throughout military aviation. It did not prove Amara's identity by itself, but it made Celeste's story less comfortable. Do you have military identification? Danielle asked. Yes. Amara removed it slowly and handed it to her. Danielle checked the photograph, date of birth, and service designation. Identification appears valid. It may be, Celeste said. That does not make the North Star badge real. The system said it was active, Maya said from her station. Celeste turned toward her. Maya. The warning inside the name was clear. Maya swallowed. Then she removed her headset completely. The system said Captain Reed was active and current. Corporate sent her name with the mission update. Kyle stared at her. You do not know what you saw. I am looking at it now. Maya pointed to her screen. AMENDED flight crew, pick call. AMARA Reed sick. Jonah WLLS Celeste crossed the room and turned the monitor away. That update could be part of the breach. Amara almost smiled. Not because anything was funny, because Celeste had reached the point where each new fact became proof of a larger conspiracy. You believe I broke into your corporate system, created a mission release, activated an executive credential, forged military identification, and then drove here in an old pickup to steal a medical jet during a thunderstorm. When you say it that way, there is no other honest way to say it. Aaron stepped closer to Amara. Ma'am, until this is resolved, I need you to come outside. No. His eyebrows lifted. Amara did not move. There is a child waiting for the organ inside that aircraft. I understand, but no, you understand that your manager gave you an order. You do not understand the mission. Aaron reached toward her arm. Danielle placed a hand against his wrist. Wait. He looked at her. She has valid military identification and dispatch has her name. Celeste called us. That does not make Celeste right. The words landed heavily. Danielle had said what everyone else was thinking and what almost no one wanted the responsibility of saying aloud. Celeste's voice sharpened. Officer Brooks, your job is not to debate my decisions. My job is to assess security threats, and I identified one. You identified a person. I have not seen a threat. Amara looked at Danielle. She would remember that sentence. The room would remember it too. Another alert appeared on the weather screen. Runway closure estimate, 7 minutes. The transplant coordinator stepped forward. We have to load the case now. Celeste blocked his path. No one enters the aircraft until we have a verified captain. Jonah Wells appeared at the locked glass door from the hangar side. He pulled at the handle, unable to enter. Through the glass, he saw Amara. His face changed instantly. He pressed the intercom button. Colonel Reed. His voice entered the operations room through a ceiling speaker. Every face turned toward the door. Jonah, Amara said, tell them who you are expecting. You. Celeste approached the intercom. Captain Wells, step away from the door. What is happening? We have a security breach. Jonah looked at the two guards beside Amara. You have got to be kidding me. Return to the aircraft. I am not taking off without my captain. You will be assigned another pilot. There is no other pilot. I will contact corporate. That is what she has been telling you to do. Celeste released the intercom button. His voice disappeared. She turned toward security. Remove her. Aaron hesitated. Danielle did not move. Celeste raised her voice. That is a direct order. Amara looked at the clock. 6 minutes. She thought about Rochelle, not Rochelle in the hospital bed. She tried not to keep that version of her sister. She remembered Rochelle laughing on the hood of their father's car, wearing a yellow dress and eating a peach over the kitchen sink, because their mother had forbidden dripping juice on the floor. She remembered the last phone call from the rural hospital, the waiting, the promises, the transportation coordinator repeating that someone was working on it. Every delay had belonged to a different person. No single person felt responsible for the whole hour, yet the hour had killed her just the same. Amara's voice softened. Celeste, this is the final time I am asking you. Call Nolan Price. Celeste held her gaze, then she took out her own phone. For one moment, Amara believed reason had finally arrived. Celeste dialed 3 numbers. Graydon Police, she said when the call connected. I need officers at North Star Aviation. We have an aggressive intruder attempting to take control of a medical aircraft. Danielle's face hardened. That is not what happened. Celeste turned away from her. Yes, she is refusing to leave. She may be armed. She claims to have military training. Amara stared at the back of her head. A person could spend decades becoming disciplined, qualified, and careful. One frightened sentence could still place a target over her heart. "Tell them I am not armed," Amara said. Celeste continued speaking. "She is escalating." Danielle stepped toward the phone. "End the call." Celeste pulled away. "Do not touch me." "I am not touching you. I am telling you that your description is false." Aaron looked between them. The situation had moved beyond an ordinary workplace dispute. He lowered his hand from Amara's arm. Outside, thunder rolled across the airport. The rain struck the glass harder. 5 minutes remained. Then headlights swept across the hangar. A black SUV stopped beside the staff entrance. Nolan Price got out before the vehicle had fully settled. He was 53, tall, white, and usually controlled enough to make urgency look organized. That evening he ran. He carried no umbrella. Rain soaked his suit as he crossed the concrete. Behind him came Dr. Priya Shah, the transplant surgeon who had traveled to inspect the donor organ. They reached the locked operations door. Nolan entered his executive code. The lock released. He came through breathing hard. "What is delaying my aircraft?" No one answered immediately. His eyes found Amara, then the guards, then the broken badge near Celeste's shoes. The color left his face. "Colonel Reed." Celeste moved toward him. "Mr. Price, thank God, we intercepted a woman using a forged executive credential." Nolan did not look at her. "Amara, are you hurt?" "No. Why are you not in the cockpit?" "She is not going near that aircraft," Celeste said. Her identification was suspicious and she became hostile when questioned. Nolan slowly turned. The entire room seemed to move with him. Her identification was suspicious. The profile was restricted. "Because she is the chair of our board." Celeste blinked. Nolan pointed toward Amara. "That is Colonel Amara Reed." No one breathed. She flew Air Force rescue missions for 21 years. She founded North Star after her sister died waiting for medical transportation. His voice grew quieter with every sentence, quiet enough that people had to listen. "She owns 54% of this company through the Reed Family Trust." Celeste looked toward the broken card. Nolan followed her eyes. "And the jet outside," he swallowed. "She owns that too." Kyle backed against the lockers. Aaron removed his hand completely from his belt. Maya began crying, though she kept her face turned toward the screen. Celeste's lips parted. She did not identify herself. Amara looked at her. "I gave you my name. You did not explain that you were the owner." Celeste said nothing. Amara continued. "Would ownership have made the military identification more believable? I followed security procedure." Nolan stepped toward the broken badge. "Security procedure told you to call corporate operations." "I was concerned the system had been compromised." "It told you to contact me." "You were unavailable." "My phone shows no call from you." Celeste's eyes moved toward the employees. She was searching for someone who might support her version. Kyle looked down. Aaron studied the floor. Only Maya met Celeste's eyes, and what Celeste saw there was no longer fear. It was disappointment. "Doctor." Priya Shah checked the transport timer. "We have 3 hours and 37 minutes before the organ exceeds the preferred window." Nolan looked at the weather screen. "How long until closure?" Maya wiped her cheek. 4 minutes. Nolan turned to Amara. "Can we make it?" Amara picked up the 2 halves of her badge. "We can if everyone stops talking." The room came alive. Maya unlocked the flight door. Jonah Wells entered at a run, carrying Amara's headset. The transplant coordinator and ground crew moved the organ container toward the jet. Nolan grabbed a reflective vest from the wall and began helping clear equipment. Amara walked toward Celeste. For the first time since the confrontation began, Celeste stepped backward. "Colonel Reed, I am sorry." Amara stopped in front of her. "No, you are afraid." Celeste's eyes filled. "I made a mistake." "A mistake is entering the wrong code or reading the wrong weather report." Amara held up the broken identification. "You ignored the system, the mission release, my military card, the dispatcher, my co-pilot, and the authentication procedure." "I was protecting the company." You were protecting an assumption. Celeste glanced toward Nolan. Please let me explain. You will have time to explain. Amara placed the badge pieces on the desk. After Isaiah gets his heart. She turned toward Danielle. Make sure the police receive the truth before they arrive expecting an armed black woman. Danielle nodded. Yes, ma'am. Then Amara walked through the glass door. The rain struck her face the moment she entered the hangar. Ground workers pulled the aircraft stairs into position. The donor heart was secured inside the cabin. Jonah followed Amara toward the cockpit. Weather is worsening faster than forecast. I saw it. Crosswind is 18 gusting 25. The limit is 27. Tower expects to close the runway in 90 seconds. Then we will be airborne in 80. They climbed into the jet. Amara settled into the left seat and placed her hands on the controls. The cockpit smelled like electronics, clean upholstery, and the faint metallic scent of rain entering through the open door. It felt familiar, not comfortable. Amara had never believed flying should feel comfortable. Comfort made people careless. The engine displays came alive. Jonah read the checklist. Amara answered each item. Battery, on fuel pumps, verified, medical power supply, stable, flight controls, free and correct. The cabin door closed. The jet began moving before the stairs had fully cleared the painted safety line. Tower called through the headset. North Star 74, severe weather approaching from the southwest. Runway 28 will close after your departure. Amara looked at the dark wall crossing the horizon. Understood. Wind 260 at 20, gusting 26. North Star 74 ready. The tower controller paused. Everyone on the frequency knew what the aircraft carried. 74 cleared for immediate takeoff. No delay. Amara advanced the throttles. The engines rose from a low vibration to a controlled roar. Rain streaked sideways across the windshield. The jet accelerated. 40 knots. 80. V1. Rotate. Amara pulled gently. The wheels left the runway as lightning flashed beyond the airport fence. Seconds later, the tower announced the closure of runway 28. Inside operations, every employee watched the aircraft climb through the rain. No one celebrated. They had nearly kept it on the ground. Celeste stood alone beside the desk. The broken badge remained where Amara had placed it. Nolan watched the jet disappear into the clouds. Then he turned to Celeste. Give Danielle your access card. Celeste looked at him. What? Your access card, keys, and company phone. You cannot suspend me in the middle of an emergency. The emergency is leaving without you. Nolan, I have managed this facility for 4 months. And in less than 20 minutes, you ignored 6 verification safeguards and made a false report to the police. I believed she was dangerous. Based on what? She refused to leave. She was the assigned captain. She raised her voice. No, Maya said. Everyone turned toward her. Maya stood beside her terminal. She never raised her voice. Celeste stared at her. You are new. You do not understand what you saw. I understand exactly what I saw. Maya's voice trembled, but it did not break. You decided she was lying before you checked anything. Every answer made you angrier because it did not match what you believed. Kyle moved toward the hallway. Nolan stopped him. Stay. I need to supervise the ground team. The ground team no longer needs supervision. Kyle's face went pale. Nolan looked at every person in the room. No one deletes a message, changes a log, or leaves until corporate investigators arrive. Celeste removed her access card. Her hand shook. This is humiliation. Danielle took the card. Amara's broken badge remained between them. Danielle looked at it before answering. Yes, she said, it is. The police arrived moments later. 2 officers entered expecting an armed intruder attempting to steal an aircraft. Instead, they found a secured operations room, a suspended manager, and several witnesses insisting the pilot had never threatened anyone. The older officer listened without interruption. Then he turned to Celeste. You told dispatch she might be armed. She said she had military training. That was your evidence. I felt unsafe. The officer looked at the security footage playing on Nolan's monitor. Amara stood throughout the recording with her hands visible. She never moved toward Celeste. She never blocked an exit. She never threatened violence. You feeling unsafe and someone being dangerous are not automatically the same thing, he said. Celeste's face crumpled. For the first time